Welcome to another episode of the Small Business Show. We're glad to have you back today, and we're going to take a slightly different tack today. And I know Linda's brought some people in to actually talk about very good businesses that they're involved with.
Well, I mean, you know both our guests, so basically they're not strangers per se. The business I brought in today, one is not particularly a common business, and the other one may be a saturated business, but who knows?
But I think this uniqueness of the business, you know, we've brought in a lot of different people in small businesses, but I think we're trying to tap into some areas where we just have never really talked to people in these particular businesses.
And as I say, for our viewers, they may be thinking of using a business like this as a client, or they may say, I want to do that, I'm passionate about A, B, or C. So this is why we bring the visibility, you know.
There's that word again.
Visibility.
Passion.
Oh, passion.
So it's great to actually see that.
What's my new word? Impassioned.
Impassionate, right? Actually, we're going to have to go and check with Webster's to see if that's actually a word. But I'm looking forward to talking to you know, a couple of our guests about just their very uniqueness too in terms of
they
business.
Just so happen to be women again, though, I'm afraid.
That's okay. You know, we were sort of outbalanced last season, so it's good to see you know, a little more balance to our guest lineup this year.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it should be fun. You know, I'm really looking forward to getting started. So we'll be back on the Small Business Show. Hang in. So let's get started on this episode of the Small Business Show. I'm really looking forward to having this discussion, and I'm going to introduce Judith Riegling of Riegling Business Services. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
I'm sure we're going to get into some interesting things. I really gravitate to your field, which is numbers.
Finance.
Maybe not Linda's field.
Not me, no.
So tell us a little bit about your business and just the experience that you've had and what you really are doing in terms of the type of business you're doing. I mean, everybody says bookkeeping, but bookkeeping isn't the same thing to everybody. So I just sort of get an idea from you. I think that would help.
Absolutely. I've been in business as a contracted bookkeeper and controller for about 9 years now on my own. And before that, for almost 12 years working with small business and learning the ropes. And well, what makes bookkeeping different? Well, whether you're a good bookkeeper makes it different. If you put the numbers together to keep your clients' finances in order so that they're always having the CRA smile at them.
They like that.
They like that. This is good. And they rest at night.
Yeah, that's important.
So you touched on controller, and I thought that was interesting because I think a lot of small businesses are not good at doing their own bookkeeping, and they don't realize the importance to reach out. But you take it a step further when you talk about controllership.
What is that? What controller means?
Controller is one step further, helping with business decisions.
I didn't know.
And for example, helping with cash flow management can be a controller's role.
Oh, I didn't know.
Helping with foreign exchange.
Wow.
Actually helping with processes and making sure the workflows are solid and simple and solid.
Because I've noticed a lot of small businesses try and do this themselves, and they kind of sink and can't swim and then get into a mess. So is it possible for them to do it on their own, or do we always need someone like a bookkeeper?
It's always possible, but it's the quality of the output and the pleasure of the CRA that you want to take into consideration.
Can you get into trouble if you do it wrong?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
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 Yeah.
Fines and interest for not paying things.
You know, and it doesn't have to happen, right? I think the big thing you shared, though, is it's not just the numbers, it's how you use the numbers. So that controllership function, more of a management accounting type of function, but a lot of businesses don't really know how to use numbers to their benefit. How would you sort of suggest people look at that as an augmentation to maybe what they're trying to do themselves?
Well, your numbers are your base for how you plan. Your numbers will give you an indication of where you're doing well and gives you some indication of where you can tweak your business, either expand or contract, and make sure you reduce your expenses in certain areas. Having said that, it's all based on having good, clean books, though, and having everything in order. And because you can't use the numbers if they're not in a usable order.
I've heard a lot of people
and neat.
stuff information into a cardboard box.
The shoebox.
The shoebox.
Absolutely.
Shoebox approach.
And then, how on earth do they sort them out? I don't like numbers or anything like that.
It's a jigsaw puzzle,
Jigsaw.
if you like those kind of things.
I like that. Gee, that's a really
Yeah.
So, what about if someone is a brand new business and can't afford a bookkeeper? Is there anything at all we can offer them, like, you know, you can do a little bit yourself but be organised? You know, are there any tips out there?
Well, startup entrepreneurs are almost always do-it-yourselfers. And I guess what I would suggest is, as soon as you possibly can afford a bookkeeper, have a bookkeeper. If you can't in the beginning, at least get some help from a trained bookkeeper or accountant to structure your books.
Good idea.
And make the structure so simple so that you can handle it for the short period until you can.
Well, I think what a lot of small businesses do not take into consideration is their time is more valuable.
Absolutely.
Doing what they do to generate revenue. And you see so many that are busy, but they're just doing things that can be done by other people. And the point you brought up is even going to somebody to say, okay, I don't have enough money to be able to engage a bookkeeper on a regular basis, but here's strategies and how at least you can start getting your numbers to work for you. So I think that's very important.
I think that's a really good idea. So what's the difference between a bookkeeper and an accountant?
Well, a bookkeeper handles the day-to-day entry and tallying of incoming receipts and outgoing payments to the government and to suppliers. And so it's the daily work, the daily tasks and the daily or monthly reporting. At year end, at quarter end or year end, then you bring those books to the accountant. And the accountant will probably do some magic for tax purposes, your tax filings. And also, some accountants will do some analysis and help you.
That's the difference between them.
Yeah.
Is it easy though, Steve, to get into this line of business? Because you're in the financial.
Because it's very a professional skill that isn't easy to pick up. And I think the other thing that's important too about what you touched on is people don't necessarily know what they need to know. And I'm talking more from compliance, more from regulation, more from doing payroll and taxes and that kind of stuff. That they can't just assume to understand. And it's not easy to understand. So I think engaging with a bookkeeper, there's another reason to do it, right?
A specialist in that area.
Would someone have to start at school, say high school or college, if they did really want to go into this line of work? Or could they have left school and college and then do it without going back to school?
Well, there are programs at college for bookkeeping so that you get your credentials, and those are really good and solid to do. I know my experience has been, I had accounting and finance courses throughout university and throughout my MBA program, and yet I never took bookkeeping classes.
Really?
No.
Oh, that's
so
interesting.
much of what I've learned is hands-on, and I think there the key is to be a constant learner.
Yes.
I think some people will focus on designation, but they don't look at the experience, and I think the experience speaks. It doesn't matter what profession you're in. That can speak even the same or even more about that person's capabilities and what they can bring to you. So I think that's important. So you're sort of taking years of experience through different courses, but refining your skill, and I think that's a very important quality.
Very important.
And I think if I bring anything different to the bookkeeping task or the bookkeeping role for one of my clients, it's because I do have the MBA behind me, and I always stand back and take a world view of the business, a broad view of the business.
Could you tell our viewers what an MBA is, just in case they're not?
Master of Business Administration.
So I'd say, really, when somebody wants to engage a bookkeeper, how do they know they're getting a good one? Just look at the credentials, like the letters or something, the MBAs?
Well, your education. Not every bookkeeper will have an MBA. No, that's not usually what you use an MBA for.
It's good to have, though. Eh?
It is. I'm broadly interested in business.
Very good.
Started out more interested in marketing, but drifted over to the finance side of things, or redirected. I just put it positively. Not only look at credentials, but look at work experience. How many years have they been in the business? Who have they worked for? What kind of businesses have they worked for?
Good tips, aren't they? Yeah.
And, you know, get references.
Yeah.
And find out what kind of accounting software they want to use.
That's an important point in today's day and age as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because today we're moving to the cloud. Cloud accounting. The cloud accounting is important.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know if I'm supposed to give a pitch, but QuickBooks has always been my software of choice, and I'm in the midst of moving to QBO, which is QuickBooks Online, and it's a whole new learning process. That too is important when you look at a possible bookkeeper for your business.
Should we understand at least something about our accounting before we hand it over to you, like our accounts and everything, whatever?
I think the important point is every business owner should have an understanding. That doesn't mean they have to know it in depth. And the thing you brought up is the software, and being able to, as a business owner, to work with that software to their own benefits. So migration and getting people to buy into the software, it helps you, but it also helps them because they have that transparency and can look at numbers on a regular basis. So I think that's important.
It's also I believe an important role, or something that I try to implement with the clients that I work with, is to help them with their financial literacy, help them understand what their books are saying to them.
That sounds amazing.
What they take from it.
That's so important.
It's visibility. I think you mentioned.
I'd love to continue the story, but unfortunately we're subject to time constraints. You know, that's the great thing.
You've shared a lot.
Thank you, Judith Riegling from Riegling Business Services, for coming on the show today. You've shared a lot of wealth.
It's open my eyes.
And we'll be back on the Small Business Show.